Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Craig Peters here from Soundiron, and in today's Soundiron session, we're going to be looking at a track that I wrote in the style of the show Ozark. So one of my favorite shows ever is the show Breaking Bad, and when I heard about Ozark, I definitely wanted to check it out because I heard it's got that really dark and gritty vibe, kind of similar in that vein of the show. And one of the things that I really liked about the show was how the score is very simplistic, but yet they always did a great job of really keeping the tension and really working to the picture and not really trying to overdo it or anything like that. So I really love that because I feel like Breaking Bad's kind of the same. You know, it has a really simplistic score, but it does such a good job of building the tension when it needs to happen. So like I mentioned, the heartbeat of the score is very simplistic, but a lot of the sound palette of the show is very material type things like glass, plastic, metal, things like that. So for this track, I used a lot of our Street Bucket, Kanjo, which is a new library that we came out with, as well as Shake and Voices of Gaia. And I use Voices of Gaia just as a way of kind of adding a little bit of vocal tension a little bit. As you can see in the track, when I start playing it, you'll see that a lot of these elements are really geared more toward just like tension building. So let's go ahead and check out the track, and then we'll break down what I did. All right, so that's the track. Now let's go ahead and sort of dissect a little bit track by track. So this was a demo that I initially wrote for Kanjo, which is a library that we came out fairly recently. And it's a really cool library. It's just a single string instrument with a can on it. It's just got a really cool kind of like mountainy sort of vibe. And first off, what I was thinking was I wanted to do something a little bit kind of dark and you know, a little bit kind of like that middle of nowhere, you know, where stuff can go wrong. So this is actually an effects preset that I made. It's not included with the library, but it's one that I made just kind of feeling out the library and sort of getting some ideas as far as what I wanted to do with the track. And you can see I called the effects preset Wrong Turns. So I was thinking sort of like people out in the middle of nowhere, you turn into the wrong area, stuff can go wrong. So this initially started off with layer 1, which is just using these sort of bowed sustains, and I love those kinds of sounds. And I have this mapped to my mod wheel so you can see the X fade goes from A to B. And this is just so I can fade in some ambiances and stuff like that. And actually fading in some bowed spiccatos, but we'll talk about that a little later. So this is kind of like the initial sound. So just a really bowed, eerie drone sound. And then in layer 2, I got these bowed spiccatos with an ARP going on. So as I'm swelling into the up through the X fade, you're starting to hear these kind of rhythmic bowed spiccato sounds coming in. So. As well as that ambience. So that single drone is basically just kind of setting the pace and the tone for the piece. And then after that, I knew I wanted to start kind of bringing in some percussion. The other Kanjo bowed distorted track, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I knew I wanted to eventually just kind of bring in some percussion, so I started using our Street Bucket ensemble, and this is a cool one because it's got all these like really just natural, you know, using street buckets and drumsticks and just, you know, really kind of material type sounds, very similar to the score of Ozark. So and these are processed as well. I got some verb and delay going on. So this is how just the street bucket sounds. And then you can hear that delay kind of playing back off of it a little bit, which is cool. And it just kind of increases more and more, adding some other drumstick sounds and just kind of building and building as it leads up into bar 14 where it drops off and changes a little bit. Now, this other sound that I was playing around with is a really cool one, and this is using a little bit of processing that I did. I got some Decapitator on here, and this is just to kind of really kind of gnarly out the sound a little bit. So this is how it sounds by itself. So we got the bowed effects preset, and just this really kind of eerie, ominous sort of really low distorted bow sound. And the distortion is this industrial mix preset that I use from Decapitator, so it sounds like this with the plugin on it. So it really kind of conjures up that feeling of like something's going bad, something's going down, and it's probably not good. Especially in Ozark, most of the time stuff doesn't go good. So that really just kind of helped like add this like really gritty growl to it. I thought it sounded really cool and kind of set a little bit more of that darker dramatic mood. And pretty much just goes on for a few bars. You can see it kind of changes some notes here and there because I didn't want it to just be one single static drone. So you can see eventually on here we have some other, you know, notes changing a little bit, just kind of playing off the tension. Adding in, you know, some different semitones and little half steps. And one of the other things that you'll hear in the score a lot is different types of shakers. So what better use of busting out some shakers than using our shake library? And this is using the shekere loops. And this one is just, you know, simple little loop over and over, while I'm also using this ambience from Kanjo as well. This is ambient 4. And let's go ahead and hear how these sound together. Is just the shakers by themselves. And then I also got some reverb on this. And this ambience is just really just kind of taking a break a little bit from all the other buildup, because as you can see as it leads up right here. So right there it kind of changes pace a little bit. So kind of thinking, okay, if I was scoring this to picture and, you know, sort of, you know, the mood changed a little bit, maybe someone came in or something. So just to kind of, you know, give a little bit of change of pace, you know, like it's building up to something and then kind of gives you a chance to kind of, okay, you know, reevaluate the situation. And then some other elements that I started adding in are these metal sounds from Street Bucket. Let's just go ahead and play these by themselves. And you can hear there's some panning automation that I did on these, as well as some delay. And then I also have the Street Bucket ensemble as well. Kind of playing off of each other. As well as this wrong turn effects preset and this ambience as well. The ambience keeps going sort of into as it's kind of building up again. As well as these shekere loops. this was pretty much sort of as it breaks off and sort of does its own thing at bar 14, this is kind of bringing back in those early elements of when the tension was sort of rising again. So pretty much telling you maybe things haven't chilled out, maybe things have gotten worse, or they're starting to build up again. And then a new element that I added is these vocal effects from Voices of Gaia, and pretty much just using these as sort of bringing in like a human element. But when you listen to it just by itself, it's more of like a eerie kind of rhythmic chant sort of thing. So it's more for adding tension, but not being musical in the sense of it being from a vocal library. So let's hear how this sounds by itself. And then let's hear that with the shakers. And then the street bucket ensemble. So very simplistic, just kind of playing off a very like sort of primal, basic groove, and just really kind of building to the tension. A lot of times with tension, necessarily it doesn't have to be a lot going on, but when it comes to seeing it to picture, it's more of really kind of keeping that steady pulse, but letting the picture kind of do its thing. So that's where, you know, being simplistic can really pay off. All right, so that about wraps up the Soundiron session. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this, as well as future new product walkthroughs, composition videos, interviews, and much more. So until next time, I want to thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.